Well, guys, a lot of progress has been made. Things are a little dirty around the worship center and our building site because we are, maybe 4.5, 5 months away from completion. So things are about to start getting crazy, and I'm going to be documenting so much more of whenever AVL gets to get in here and it's a clean room. But it's been 4 months since my last update video of our progress here, and I thought I'd just kind of share with you guys what I've learned since then and maybe some things that haven't gone according to plan and how we're just being flexible, rolling with things, and all the great stuff that's happening too. Tons of progress has been made. You can see behind me, we've got our first coat of paint on the walls. We've got staging going in, risers, our steel's gone up outside. So if you're interested to see how our building progress has gone, maybe you've got a project or you're just kind of, interested in peeking behind the curtain, stick around for the rest of this video. Let's go. So I'm standing here in what will be our 600 seat capacity worship center that used to seat around 400 people. And we have totally gutted this thing for this remodel. So this has been a big part of the project, and AVL will soon be in here. So let me just talk you through some of what we chose to do in the design of this room and the AVL choices we're making to put into it. So you can see behind me we have a set of risers that we have put in. It's going to be 4 levels high, and our broadcast room and audio broadcast mixing station will be underneath that. I'll show you that in just a minute. But this used to be like a glass mirrored wall. If you've been around here for a while, it had some classrooms in it that we blew that out. And the goal here was to narrow our worship center. This space was super wide, so it was almost odd if you're on stage. So we actually have built these walls behind me over here to bring in the room and then added seating up. So it kind of brings it in and up just a little bit. So we'll have floor seating here that's still movable, and then up there will be actually bolted on, nice seating. So that's one big major change we've made to the space. The next major thing we changed was this stage. So if you guys remember, we had a choir loft up here and then some fake walls on the sides and then these giant steps that went down. So you can see I'm standing right here is where the edge of the steps used to go. And so now we've tucked that back. We've got a curved stage, and I need to talk to you though about this stage. Oh, and actually, it's not a stage. I technically have to call it a platform for code reasons or something. But speaking of code, that's one of my main annoyances with the stage, is that it is 28 inches tall. The reason that it is 28 inches tall is that anything over 28 inches would mean we would have to put sprinklers all underneath this metal framed stage. And so in order to avoid that, we have chosen to go with the 28 inches rule. Now, one of the annoying things I've always had with my stage is that I can't get a lift on the stage. And now I'm still not going to be able to get a lift on the stage. There is no ramp. We have chosen to go with a handicap accessible chairlift over off stage. So we'll still just be booming over the stage for now. But luckily, we did put in 7-foot doorways instead of the residential height doors that we had coming into here. So I should be able to get a boom lift in here now, no problem. But we've got our sub bunkers here that you can see. We've got 4 of those that are lining the front of the stage, and we had to flex on that as well because, the design called for other things. But we've got pipes that come up, conduit that go to the back underneath the concrete, that the positioning of those wasn't actually centered, and so you just kind of have to be flexible and roll with it. So the other bad part of this stage is that it's going to be, it's 16-inch centers for the framing going one way, and so you're not going to be crawling around underneath the stage. So we had to be pretty strategic about putting our conduit runs to our stage boxes that are going back to where our rack is going to sit in the stage left area. And it's been quite the adventure, but I think it's all going to work out fine as long as we have enough conduit. And I think we ran big enough stuff, so cross our fingers. And worst case scenario, I just stick my skinny 16-year-old son underneath there, and hopefully he's not claustrophobic. One of the other major annoyances has been dealing with electrical issues. Like yesterday, I found out that all of our floor pockets that were already ran into the concrete in various areas of the worship center are going to have to be filled in. We are not going to be able to use those because a couple of them actually ended up underneath the bleachers and they're all on one circuit, and it's just kind of a mess. But there's other electrical issues we ran into, whether that is making sure the electricians actually follow the plans that AVL has dictated. Yeah, we do actually need 520 amp circuits at each rack, whether that's in the broadcast or stage left, just various things like that. But the other major thing that we're running into is that eventually this building and our campus is going to need a transformer upgrade. So I don't know all the lingo and electrical jargon, but we're at 15,000, and our building usage with everything that we're adding could potentially, get up to 14,000 or something. Basically, they're telling us, you guys are kind of getting there to being on the line of like, if you just keep adding power, you're going to trip your main breakers. And so we're at the point where we don't have to do that now, but they're saying that could be $500,000 to do the next level up of transformer upgrades and breaker changes for our mains and all those things. But it's dictating some decisions where it's like, no, you can't really just throw more 20 amp breakers for another LED wall potentially, because if everything's running on a Sunday morning, who knows, you might hit that main breaker and be tripping it. So we may do an electrical study. That may be a phase 2 made for more campaign. But as of now, it's not changing any of my AVL plans, but it is a consideration. Next, sprinklers under the stage aren't the only annoyance that sprinklers have caused for us. Twice now we've had lifts like this one be driving around and pop a sprinkler head off, and water's just going all throughout our build. And it's been a giant pain. Luckily, they've been able to shut it off quickly, but not before tons of water was out. And it's just kind of annoying how sprinklers have to dictate the way you set up a room. Even in the broadcast room, with an overhang of the risers being above, the sprinklers have to not have a curtain formed or something, so they have to go side out of the wall, which means you can't have racks in front. And I understand it's all for safety, but it is just kind of annoying. So I'm over sprinklers. And don't get me wrong, that is a fire marshal's job. They want to keep everybody safe, and that is the priority. But it's caused some added expenses for us, as now we have to update other areas of our campus with, AV mutes that when a fire alarm goes off, it's going to actually disengage the sound system, whether that's in our student space or our kids' space. And so those are things to consider, even if you're adding infrastructure to your campus, that maybe fire marshal is going to come and say, no, you need to change out these things in order to come up to code as a building. All right, that's enough whining from me. Let's talk about some of the stuff I'm excited about. And one of the questions that I got on our last video that I put up 4 months ago, kind of walking through our thought process of actually designing this whole space, go watch it if you haven't yet, you'll learn something, was, what are you guys doing for audio in the space? Because we used to have some EV line arrays that I was honestly really happy with for our space. They lasted many years, and now I've sold them to one of my buddies. And the question remains, what are we going to do in this place? So we are actually coming in with a Martin Taurus, T-O-R-U-S, line array system that's going to hang from the proscenium up there. And we're going to be stereo in the room, which I think for our room now makes sense. You can agree to disagree on that if you want to. We're not going to go crazy with like panning something hard right or hard left, but just enough to have some actual effects in stereo. I've really enjoyed having that in our other space that we have stereo in. It just gives you more width to mix. And so now, by us bringing these walls in and not having the super wide room and coming up instead with these risers, we have a little bit of ability to do some stereo stuff. So Martin Taurus for the PA. For our mixing desk, we're going still in the Behringer ecosystem because that's what we have already here on campus, and we've been happy with it. We had the Midas M32, we got an X32 in there, so we're going wing, baby. We're going wing black for front of house, and then wing compact with a Waves setup, the Waves card installed, and then I forget which Waves external thing it is. We had to update it because this one actually has like a built-in computer and that kind of thing, so you don't need a Mac Mini separate. But we're going to do that for our broadcast audio for the times that I have someone that's trained and ready to go in there to do a separate mix. I'm happy with our mix currently, but you know, you can always improve. But also, we've been writing a lot as a team and recording a lot, and that will be a nice setup for doing some of that as well. So on stage, we will have some stage pockets that will feed our Behringer P24s. We are going to the new P24s. There's things about them I don't love, but I still think they're better than the P16s for our setup. And I'm splurging on a Midas DP48 for myself for in-ears. Speaking of in-ears, last video I told you guys we didn't have any money to be able to upgrade our mics that were 20 years old. Well, that changed, thankfully, and we've had some infusion of money and funds into the project, and so I've been able to now upgrade our full mic package to Shure QLX-D, and for in-ears, wireless in-ears, we're going with Shure. We were going to go with the 1000s, but I guess those are discontinued, so we're going with the 900s. And so that's the Space, and I think it's going to work well, but one of the things that's important to consider with audio is sound treatment. So let me talk to you about what we're going to do for that. Previously, we did not have a budget for acoustic treatment for this room. We were just going to maybe reuse our old acoustic treatment, and it was just kind of going to be a mess. I didn't really have a plan, but I've struck a deal with a company that we've used previously to do some product for content, so they gave us a great deal, and I'm super excited to kind of walk through that whole process of like treating a room, the difference that it can make, so that'll be a future video. But now we will be able to treat all of our side walls, the walls above our risers, the back walls, anywhere that we might have a little bit of spill from the PA. I mean, the goal there is aim your PA at the people, and luckily in this room, nothing is symmetrical. So it kind of drives me crazy most of the time that nothing is symmetrical when you're measuring things, but look on the bright side. For audio, that's a good thing. Next, I'm super excited about our LED wall setup that we're going to be able to utilize in this space. So I went back and forth, tested many different LED panels, just trying to squeeze our budget the furthest that it could go to make the biggest impact, but something that we'll be happy with long term. And you guys know I have other videos on the channel about budget LED walls. So we kind of met in the middle, and our integrators, DC Pro, got us a really solid deal on some Unilumen Ulux 2.5 panels. So we'll have a large wall that's kind of tucked in that inset that is going to be on motors. That's a whole other issue when you want things on motors, but you don't have enough steel, and now you're paying to add steel. We did it because I want things flexible in the long term. Could have just wall mounted it, but I think we're going to be happier that it's flown. But so we'll have a main 16:9 wall because the panels are 16:9 ratio natively, which I'm happy about. And we were able to add on enough extra panels in this LED package to be able to do some different towers or ribbons or just get creative to add out and build off of our main center wall. So super excited about how that all kind of came together with the LED wall. I guess that means your boy's going to have to learn how to use Resolume or PVP or something. I don't know. Maybe ProPresenter can do all that. A lot of masking. But remember, an LED wall is not just to display video. It actually is pretty much a lighting instrument. So let's talk about our lighting setup that we're going to go with in here. Above our congregation, we have added 5 light pipes that will house and hang our key lighting and our architectural lighting that we'll use to wash the walls with gobos and things like that. The key lights that we are going with are the Chauvet Ovation 260 CWs, I think. They're the cool white version that are more daylight balanced, like 5500, which I'm excited about probably moving towards daylight on our white balance instead of 4500 or 3200, just because now LED walls are going to look true to color on camera. And honestly, I film all of my YouTube videos at 5600 Kelvin. Our house lights are a very important part of this equation as well, so let me talk to you about those. I'm standing here on what will be our stage decking that will go on next week if we get approved by code enforcers. But let's talk about house lights and what we're doing. So we are going with elation fuse pendants out over the audience that will be hung from the grid. Unfortunately, you see the grid above me. We are still coming back in with ceiling tiles and insulation on top of those ceiling tiles. To the beams, it's another 16 feet, so it's problematic, but it is what it is. And so those will hang off the grid just underneath, pendant style. And then above the stage and above our risers, we went in with the fused compacts, because the compacts can actually be mounted into the ceiling tiles like a traditional can light. So the fused pendants will follow the ceiling grid height until you get to where you see that black line. That black line is the same height as our stage ceiling. And so once all these pendants out here that come in front of the proscenium, that's really hard to do on camera, but go in front of the proscenium, those will all hang down to that height of that black line and kind of create a false ceiling. So if you have just a rectangle room, a lot of times that's what they'll do, is they'll bring a black line down on your side walls so high and then create that false ceiling of pendant lights. But one thing that the pendants aren't going to be used for is emergency lighting. Now, the Elation fused pendants do have the ability to have emergency backup battery lighting come in on 2-wire, but we've chosen actually to go just a little simpler route and not have them part of that job. We're just gonna have a few UFO style LEDs on the battery backup system, and then in combo with just the exit signs that are above the doors, that they've got to be there anyways. So we'll just have the little frog eyes, the lights on either side of them that are mixed in there. And then it's easier to change the batteries when they go bad, because they do. And so that way your emergency lights actually work. So this media booth is the only part of this room that wasn't supposed to be touched. We added this booth when we were shut down in 2020 for COVID, and it's served us really, really well. But while everything else is messed up, this has gotten messed up too. So we'll be tearing out the carpet, tearing out the tabletops, and redoing the flooring, adding another camera pole that we've built. I've got a video on my channel about that. It's like the Savvy style mount. Doing some different things here. Above for confidence monitor, I'm probably gonna go with 2 98-inch TVs instead of projection screen, just for a little extra flexibility. I mean, LED panels would have been nice, but that's way overkill for stage display. One thing I'm gonna do that's unique that I'm excited to show you the final product of is, I mean, a lot of people are doing it now, but going with standing desks in both of these spaces. So in the bottom deck, we'll have audio on one side on a standing desk, and then on the other side, we'll have Pro Presenter on a standing desk as well. And so the top now, that used to be all of our directing, is going to be just for lighting and a producer role. And so we're using Elation NX1, or Onyx NX1, I guess, but Elation makes that. Either way, the NX1 with 8 universes is gonna be our system we're using for lighting. But since that's pushing our director role out of the booth, let's show you where he's gonna go. All right, I'm standing in what will be our audio broadcast room. Basically, audio enters through a door that's right here, and it's gonna come all the way to this pillar. And then on the other side of it is our broadcast room. And this will be where the director sits, and all the TVs will be up on this wall with a countertop that goes all the way across that section underneath the risers. Now, where this orange ladder sits is in a separate room with a drop ceiling, and that is where all of our racks will go. So this whole space is going to be on a mini split that is climate controlled separately from the rest of the building, so we can have a little bit of autonomy and freedom there. In any project, you cannot neglect to think through your gathering spaces when it comes to AVL. And so we are standing in our main central hub, and we've opened up both sides of our church. There used to be classrooms down each hallway. We've taken those out. We're coming back with other items like seating areas and coffee spaces and missions walls and things like that. Also restrooms. Having restrooms at the front of your church is actually a pretty important thing at the main entrance. So we're doing that. But as far as AVL goes, we chose to do self-install of our full lobby speaker systems. I mean, I'm pretty familiar with installing 70-volt speaker systems. I've done it a few times. It's really not hard. It's literally just speaker wire and setting up your zones and running them, together. So we're doing that, and we will have outdoor speakers as well. And part of that equation is making sure all of your conduit throughout everything with your AVL plan is prepped and ready to go for the electricians. So that way it makes your life easier when you go to run cabling for all of the actual devices. And so we've got conduit running to the different racks and places, so that way we can just use the pull string and away we go. make sure that it's actually getting installed. Like where you call out a 4-inch conduit, they're not putting a 3/4 inch conduit. That may have happened yesterday. So that is some of the AVL in here. We also are adding like a really fancy like neon LED emblem logo thing on the wall. We're doing some other treatments with graphics and vinyl print decals to cover the walls. And I'm in charge of all that. So it's going to be super fun, and I'm excited to see this space come together. But something new that was not here 4 months ago when I did this update video is our new kids wing. It's got a worship center, indoor playground, and I want to show you what that's going to look like. And maybe some of the headaches we've already experienced with AVL in a brand new space. So let's go. This is the entrance to the new kids space. Over here we'll be going into an indoor playground, and then over here is a hallway. So let's go down the hallway into what will be the kids worship center. So it's not much to look at right now, but we're excited. We got the steel up, the framing up, a bunch of sprinkler stuff already running around, conduit ran for our booth over here. But one of the issues that we had was the house lighting in here. I was looking on the plans, noticed the model that was called out that we didn't notice earlier, and it was a 0 to 10 volt LED. And that's what we've had in the venue that I've talked about, having horrible issues with dimming curves on. So we've gone around and around, but we are going to get some RGBW pendants actually put in here. So that's going to be great. We are doing a lot of the owner furnished stuff in our kids space. We'll just do projection on this back wall. It'll be nice that it'll be all blacked out ceilings. DC Pro is going to add some of the infrastructure for us, hang points, some of the sound system. We're going Martin in here as well, powered speakers, I believe. And yeah, it's just going to be a simpler AVL, but it's going to be a great space for us to use as a church and for our kids. But it's just, you got to keep an eye on everything. If the main lesson that I would teach you is this, is like, no one cares about your project more than you do. I have a vision for how we're going to actually use the space. So I have to make sure that that is like being caught, basically. And catching things is part of that. You know, electricians don't always understand the same lingo that maybe an AVL contractor is using. And so just making sure that everybody is on the same page and that it's being executed with excellence. I'm excited for you guys to see the finished product, and really over these next 4 months, 5 months, to document the process of actually implementing the AVL in a space like this and lessons I learn along the way, so that you don't have to make the same mistakes that we do. So if you have any questions about what all we're doing, drop those in the comments. I'd love to be able to chat and answer those. And if you have any ideas or, you know, things that we should think through, let me know in the comments as well. I mean, there's other things I haven't talked about because this video would be 3 hours long, but things like, you know, adding a cap that's 45 degrees on the edge of the booth and things like that, you know, that's all great. Well, there's obviously no AC in this place, and it is August in Oklahoma, so I think I should probably go drink some water, get ready for church tomorrow, because remember, at the end of the day, we can do a lot of great things. Let's do it all for God's glory. We'll see you in the next one.